My name is Jeremy Wade, freshwater detective, explorer and angler. I've been fishing the world for decades, but it's the Amazon that keeps calling me back. Now I'm returning to South America on the mission of a lifetime, to spend an entire year going further, deeper and more remote than I've ever been before, in search of the river monsters of the Amazon. I've uncovered reports of 3 mysterious deaths in the northern part of the Amazon. In each case, the lifeless body was recovered with strange injuries. Locals are pointing the finger of suspicion at something living in the water. But on the lawless frontier between Colombia and Brazil, is it really a fish that's responsible? I'm on a mission to find the truth behind the mystery, on a river system that forces me to question everything I know.
Whoa!
I've based my career on investigating extraordinary claims from all over the world. Pack hunter massacres, underwater flesh rippers, even tales of men swallowed whole. But nowhere seems to hold as much intrigue and mystery as right here in the Amazon. 3 bodies in 3 Amazon countries, 3 unexplained deaths, 1 deadly signature. But what was responsible? The 3 attacks occurred in the region of the Amazon where Brazil, Peru and Colombia meet. Leaving my boat at the Brazilian port of Tabatinga, I'm on the trail of my first case. A bizarre death at a rural school just 10 miles away. Originally a Portuguese settlement and military outpost, Tabatinga now lays dubious claim to being the main entry point for Colombian cocaine into Brazil.
I'm on my way to meet an eyewitness to this incident that I've heard about. This is someone who apparently retrieved the teacher's body from the water. But to meet him, I've got to cross the border into Leticia in Colombia.
There's a heavy military presence. And my claim that I'm crossing the border in search of a fish raises some eyebrows.
Tudo okay? Okay, obrigado.
I'm allowed to pass and continue to the school where the incident occurred, where a man named Walter is waiting for me. Walter was just a boy when it happened. The man who died was his teacher, and Walter leads me down to the riverbank where the body was recovered.
Habíamos 24 chicos que estábamos jugando fútbol.
There were 20-odd lads playing football in front of the school. And at the end of the game, to cool off, they came down here with the teacher. It's been years since it happened, but as Walter talks, it's almost as if it were yesterday. The time of year that it happened was high water, so the water was actually up around here. Walter and his friends swam for a while before venturing into the forest, leaving their teacher in the water. They didn't see what happened next.
A buscar al profesor, nos regamos aquí.
And they found his body right here.
Lo revisamos y tenía una marca negra.
Mancha negra.
Sí.
He said the first thing that they noticed was this dark mark on his chest. Was that almost like a bruise, like something hit him?
No. Fue una quemadura.
And he said it's more like a burn, almost from friction possibly, but a burn rather than a bruise.
La quemada o de un temblón o la anguilla. Temblón es un pez, son largos, grandes. Cuando ellos tienen contacto con uno, tiran un corrientazo.
Now, to me, that sounds like an electric eel. I've come across those before. I know that they can kill people. But there's one detail here that doesn't really stack up. The strange dark mark on the teacher's chest. I've never heard of an electric eel causing such wounds. Could the trauma actually have been the result of foul play? Or perhaps some other kind of creature? But what lives in the water that can burn you? With the help of a local boatman, I head out onto the water. Could whatever's responsible be one of the dozens of new species discovered each year in the teeming waters of the Amazon? Within minutes, there's activity. Right, there was a tug, and that's now missing its tail. That was a piranha, it's taken that off. Piranhas are an all too familiar problem when fishing the Amazon, but I have a solution. I switch to a tough plastic lure. Hopefully, I'll have more luck with this. Almost immediately, my change in tactics is rewarded. Very aggressive piranha there, taking this very noisy, large lure on the surface. It's a perfect opportunity for an experiment. Right. I'm just going to see if we can demonstrate how sharp those teeth are. This is 300-pound breaking strain Kevlar, the same material used to make bulletproof vests. Just get some in here. 8. That's impressive. Its teeth slice effortlessly through the Kevlar. But what about woven steel? Huh. It's a sobering reminder of the flesh-slicing potential of these prolific predators. On those rare occasions when piranhas do attack, it's death by 1,000 cuts. Walter described his teacher's wounds in quite some detail, and there was no mention of bite marks, blood, or injury dealt by human hand. This is just flesh and bone. It just goes to show what an arms race it is under the water here. Could that arms race have produced a fish capable of inflicting these mysterious injuries? I've heard about a second unusual death, this one more recent. Tomorrow, I'll track down the witness. Daybreak, I leave Colombia and take a boat into Peruvian territory, to the island of Santa Rosa, where last year another attack occurred, bearing the same deadly signature. The victim was this man's younger brother. Jack leads me to the rear of the family home. This is where they found the body. It was a normal day, just like any other. His brother was told by his father to go and check a fishing net that was set some way away. It was high water, and he left the house by canoe. It was the last time anyone saw him alive.
Estaba muy, como quien decir, tranquilo, ¿no?
And then some time later, the rest of the family just realized it's been a while, he should be back by now.
¿En dónde estás?
The family became worried.
Christian!
Jack suddenly noticed that the canoe was floating empty. As he pulled his brother's body from the water,
Christian!
he made a shocking discovery.
Lo levantamos a él.
Christian!
He bore an unusual black mark across his chest. Marca negra.
Sí, exactamente.
So what did the hospital actually say?
Es temblón.
De un temblón.
Es un animal muy peligroso que dentro que está dentro del agua uno hay que precaucionar.
Jack also seems to be describing an electric eel. People here are very clear that these black burn marks are the work of the temblon. But I'm finding it hard to believe that the electric eel's brief shocks could cause such terrible wounds. What creature lurks in water that can scorch human flesh? I'm in the northwest corner of the Amazon, investigating 3 mysterious deaths in 3 separate countries. So far, I've spoken with witnesses to attacks in Colombia and Peru. Both described finding the victim's body lifeless in the water with a strange black mark across the torso. Was that almost like a bruise, like something hit him?
No. Fue una quemadura.
The witnesses blame a fish they call the temblon. Not only is this a new name to me, but I've never heard of a fish capable of burning human skin. Did you actually see anything in the water yourself?
Dentro del agua ya no había nada.
But neither witness actually caught sight of the creature responsible. Still without a solid lead, I do what I know best and get out onto the water, which has now receded from around the houses. What monsters could be hiding here? Things are strangely quiet in this oppressive heat. All I'm managing to attract are butterflies, lured in by the salt in my sweat. Plenty of activity above the water at the moment. I just wish the same was true underneath the water. Could whatever's on my line shed light on the stories I've been hearing? What was I saying? That's quite surprising. What's that? What's that? Good. This is called a surubin. I'm actually holding it quite firmly because on this fin here, there's a very, very sharp spine, and it's actually got backward-facing barbs coming down it as well. So if it wriggles and sticks that in you, it's actually pretty painful. Which I know all too well. The spines are coated in a sticky mucus, which causes severe pain. This is a fish that can stab you, it can draw blood, but no way can this cause the wounds that I've been hearing about, those burn marks. It's a good sign though, something's starting to move. There's no shortage of Amazon fish that can inflict injury. From piranhas with their razor-sharp teeth, and catfish with their wicked spines, to venomous stingrays and monsters with mouths big enough to swallow you whole. But the wounds being described are baffling. Nothing I've ever seen could cause those. With no witnesses to either actual attack, and having caught no potential suspects, I leave Peru and slip back into Portuguese-speaking Brazil, the third country in this trio of tragic deaths. There, I meet up with a fisherman named João, who dragged his lifeless friend from the water.
primeiramente, não, uma bolinha aqui.
Now, this is something that is consistent with those other two stories I heard. There were dark marks on the body, looking just like burn marks. Pode contar para mim exatamente o que aconteceu?
Primeiramente, dia 5 de setembro.
João and his friend made their way through the forest to a lake they'd fished many times before.
Já pegou muito, pego muito peixe, qualquer peixe.
They'd already caught a lot of fish, but they decided to just fish a little bit more. It was a decision that would prove fatal.
Também.
João is holding the net while his friend is actually paying it out.
Bora amigo, bora.
His body shook violently as he disappeared below the water. Sumiu abaixo de água.
Caí. Cabeça.
Crucially, though, João is the first of my witnesses to actually see the creature responsible. João says what he actually saw was something coming out of the water and wrapping around his friend's head, scaring the creature off with his spear.
Já tá morto.
João recovered the body of his friend. Esse animal, que foi que fez?
Tau.
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 O nome português do peixe?
Poraquê.
Poraquê. Now that is exactly the same as what in Colombia and Peru they call the temblon and what we know in English as the electric eel. It seems incredible, but I can't now dismiss these claims. João is a fisherman, and he says he saw with his own eyes an electric eel attacking his friend. I know from my previous investigations that they can not only kill humans, but large animals too. Their powerful shocks cause paralysis that can lead to drowning. They even have the power
400, 500 volts.
to induce a fatal heart attack. But an animal with the power to burn flesh seems impossible to me. Sensing my skepticism, João tells me of another case he's heard about and gives me directions to the medic who examined the victim's body. I waste no time and head straight to her clinic. Could she have the answers I need to explain the telltale marks scorched into the victim's skin? Pode descrever para mim o jeito das marcas?
Mas também eu pude ver, veja só.
Dr. Daisy reviews her old case notes.
Pescador indígena.
The body of an indigenous fisherman was brought to her clinic.
De 3 faixas,
On his chest and back were 3 stripes.
como se fosse fio elétrico.
She said it's almost as if a thick electric cable had been wound round the body. For an eel to wrap around a person 3 times, it would have to be significantly longer than any electric eel I've seen. Soon after birth, the eels develop electric organs running the length of the body, leaving little room for muscle. They can't wrap or coil around things like a snake can. Could the marks, in fact, be bruising?
Podia passar até o dedo em cima, via a pele torrada.
She says absolutely no doubt about it. This was a burn, it wasn't a bruise. On close inspection, it was almost as if it had been fried or toasted. I don't doubt that the wounds were burns, but everything I've learnt about the eel's deadly weapon suggests brief, intense shocks, rather than the sustained power to fry flesh.
Como a gente vê nesse...
Dr. Daisy then shows me something I've never seen before. Footage of an electric eel shocking and killing a caiman. I think what's going on here is this guy is actually, he's caught the electric eel on a line, there's the bait. Cayman looking very interested here, almost sort of hypnotized by it. Hey.
Pegou.
And right, the cayman's grabbed it by the neck, instant effect, thrashing around, just like somebody grabbing an electric cable.
Total paralisado pela descarga elétrica.
This creature is completely overpowered. It's a terrifying sight. And if this eel's deadly shocks are capable of penetrating the thick reptilian armour of a cayman for such a long time, I'm left wondering whether the waters of the Amazon could be harbouring an electric eel, unlike anything I've seen before. What does the Spanish word for electric eel, temblón, mean in English? Find out after this. The Spanish word temblón comes from the word meaning tremble or shake because it makes its victims convulse. I'm in Brazil, investigating 3 mysterious deaths. Each victim suffered strange burns to the torso. So far, I've doubted witnesses' claims that the electric eel could be responsible.
Como a gente vê nesse...
But having just seen extraordinary footage of a cayman being shocked continuously for almost a minute, is it possible that I've drastically underestimated what the electric eel is capable of? É uma coisa incrível, né?
Por algumas histórias, por exemplo, os indígenas Tupi,
Dr. Dacey says if I really want to understand the electric eel, there's an indigenous tribe called the Matisse that I should visit.
ele mora em uma...
Instead of avoiding these creatures, they catch them to eat. Now, normally these people, they live very remote from here, not easy to talk to, but there's a guy, apparently called Bushi. He's from the Matisse tribe, and he lives, at the moment, he's in a town called Atalaya, which is only about 10 miles from here. Bushi may be my only chance of contacting this remote tribe. Do they really eat electric eels? And if so, how do they avoid the deadly shocks during the catch?
Sou Jeremy.
É um prazer, Jeremy, conhecer.
Tem 5 minutos para conversar?
Ah, posso sim conversar
Ok.
5 minutos. Senta aí, Jeremy.
Obrigado.
Conversar.
Eu já ouvi falar que os Matisse não têm medo de poraquê, é verdade isso?
E é peixe mais gostoso do que pra gente, é favorito pro povo Matisse, é bom.
That's interesting. He says, yep, we fish for it to eat it. He says it's actually our favourite fish to eat. Como é essa técnica?
Primeiro pega os poraqué, né? Depois pega com pau, puxa com a mão, é normal.
De mão, às vezes?
Com a mão, às vezes. É de todo jeito.
Right. This is interesting. They catch them by hand. A fish that strikes fear throughout the Amazon. A fish known to kill in seconds, the Matisse apparently catch with bare hands. That's something I need to see to believe. Para mim é pouco incrível. Tem como eu ver os Matisse pegando?
É difícil de entrar no nosso território.
Bushi is kind enough to consider my request, but says that his tribe lives 500 miles upriver and that the journey cuts through the territory of aggressive, warring tribes. If that weren't enough, the rivers are getting low, making them hazardous to navigate. But what he does say, though, is that if we can get there, this is the time of year. The water is low. This is when they fish for the electric eel. As we talk into the night, my excitement and apprehension grow. This must be one of my most ambitious and possibly most dangerous journeys yet. Even if Bushi can persuade the elders to allow my visit, I'll need a medical checkup immediately. The tribe was almost wiped out by disease when they were first contacted by outsiders, and they remain extremely wary. Vanessa, eh?
Isso.
Okay. So Jeremy.
Jeremy.
Okay. Vanessa is a nurse who's worked with numerous tribes in this part of the Amazon. She examines me thoroughly for any sign of infection. Even something as simple as a common cold could have disastrous consequences for the tribe.
Engole.
Okay. Yeah, that looks like a clean bill of health. No obvious signs of any infections that I might pass on, so okay for me to go and visit the Matisse. The water level is continuing to drop, exposing hazardous tree roots and rocks. There's no time to waste. I decide to leave at first light and head as far as the government base on the edge of the reserve, where I hope permission will be waiting for me. Packing light is not an option. Everything for the arduous trip ahead must come with me and my camera crew. Just the barrels of fuel to get us there weigh in at well over a ton. It's a long and tiring trip, but just a fraction of what might lie ahead. If Bush's request for permissions has been denied, my journey and investigation are over. It's a big gamble, but with every hour I'm edging closer to the Matisse and their extraordinary knowledge of the electric eel. True to his word, Bushy has secured the permissions, but things are still far from certain. It's been a real mission just to get here, the boundary of the reserve. As we prepare to leave the safety of the base, I have no idea what to expect. Upriver here, the only people there at the moment are indigenous tribes. In terms of outsiders, you're just talking occasional health workers and patrols by Funai themselves. A film crew, that's fairly unusual. This is going to be the first film crew to go to this particular village. Our passage will take us through the territories of warring tribes, never before contacted by outsiders. The danger is real and present. In the last 20 years, more than 100 agents of the Indian Protection Agency have lost their lives at the hands of indigenous tribes. We race the light to reach the safety of the village before nightfall. But our heavily loaded boats aren't travelling fast enough.
Our driver's suggesting we ain't gonna make it tonight.
We basically run out of daylight. The village apparently is not very far, but nobody knows exactly how far, and the thing is it's going to be dark very soon, so rather than risking travelling at night, and particularly in hostile territories, we decided to just come in on this beach and camp, which is not an ideal situation. To have come so far and to be so close is incredibly frustrating. We prepare a simple camp, and I try to get some sleep. Yeah, this is no good. I can't actually sleep. Every noise and rustle in the rainforest reminds me just how remote we are. I don't even know if I was properly asleep or just dozing, but there was something. Our only deterrent against hostile tribes and wild predators is a small campfire. Like a sort of crashing sound, or crashing or splashing. So far, I've travelled for 2 days to see the Matisse and the electric eels into a territory that few people would attempt to enter. I could have sworn I heard something. Right now, all I want to see is the daylight. After a sleepless night, I push deeper into the Brazilian Amazon, investigating a series of mysterious deaths where the bodies were found with bizarre burn marks. Witnesses are blaming the electric eel. And in a bid to get closer to the truth, I've travelled for days to meet a secretive tribe who have such an intimate knowledge of these fish that they allegedly catch them with their bare hands. Finally, I'm nearing the village. Members of the tribe have gathered on the banks to greet me. I was going to say there was something of a welcoming committee here on the riverbank. That's what it looked like in the distance, but on arrival there's certainly quite a subdued mood about things. There's tension as I approach the village chief. Will you? As Bushy introduces me,
Jeremy.
something is clearly wrong. I may not speak the language, but it's very clear that the chief is deeply distressed.
Mas só que infelizmente não dá, né? Lamenta muito, né?
Someone from the village has been taken ill and isn't expected to survive the night.
Isso.
He's actually quite apologetic. He said, "Look, normally we would greet you with, some happiness, some celebration. It's his mother actually who is very ill at the moment, and he's saying that she could die literally at any time. So he has no time to devote to us. He is literally waiting for his mother to die."
The tribe gathers in the community longhouse for a vigil. This is no place for an outsider. Bushy introduces me to Ivan, who agrees to take me upriver with a family travelling to another village. All thoughts of the electric eel slip to the back of my mind as I prepare my gear. Ivan has agreed to fish with me, and I know this is some kind of test. With a simple stick for a rod, an old piece of line and a small hook, he casts out and immediately has a fish on the end.
Manji. That's not bad.
Oh! Could I too have something on my first cast?
That's a good sized fish. Oh!
I'm in Brazil, living with the secretive Matisse tribe, fishing deeper into the rainforest than I have ever been before. Lured here by stories that they catch electric eels with their bare hands. It's a fish that witnesses claim can not only kill in seconds, but also burn human flesh.
Una quemadura.
That's a good sized fish.
I'm hoping to earn the trust and respect of the tribe, and the best way to do that is to supply a meal.
Familiar trembling of the knees when you've got a good sized fish on. I'm just going to loosen off the drag here. About to see it in a second. No, we're not. The thing about fish living in muddy water, you get them near the surface, and as soon as they're in the light, they detect the light, and they kick and they go. There it is. That was first cast. That bait had been out a couple of minutes. And for a fish of this size to take that in that short a time is a real indication of what happens to these rivers when it is just low pressure subsistence fishing. This is very meaty. There's not very much in the way of bones here. Ivan, Matisse come esse não? Okay. Interesting. They don't really like these. They only eat these if they have to.
This red-tailed catfish is a good catch, but it appears I'll need to try again if I'm to make a proper impression.
So I'm going to leave the clicker on. Free spool. That's something. under a branch by the feel of it. It's a redtail, it's another redtail. So just gentle, gentle, gentle. The first time I came to the Amazon, I was several weeks fishing a river in a more populated area. I never saw anything the size of this. Nice sized fish. Dá para segurar a cauda?
2 casts, 2 big fish. This is clearly a very special place where normal rules don't seem to apply. On my return, I learn from Bushy that I've been granted an audience with the village shaman. It's said he wields mysterious powers, including the ability to protect the hunters from the eel's deadly shocks. Inside the Maloka, a ceremony is underway. The shaman asks me to explain what it is I hope to learn here.
If somebody from outside who's not Matisse, somebody like me, were to try this kind of fishing, what might happen? That was a surprisingly forceful reply. I absolutely don't recommend you try. The shock is very strong. That could burn your arm. It could even give you a heart attack.
Clearly they believe that the electric eel can kill and burn, but the shaman insists that the Matisse can resist their deadly powers. He then begins a strange ritual. Could this be the secret of their immunity? He burns 2 hardwood sticks in the fire, pressing the glowing embers into the hunter's arms and picking the blistered flesh away before rubbing a mysterious paste into the raw wounds.
It's a poison that comes from the skin of a certain frog, and the body's reaction to any poison, the first reaction is to empty the stomach.
As the tribesmen vomit beside me, the link between this ritual and the supposed ability of the Matisse to handle the eels is unclear to me.
But there has to be some good reason for undergoing what looks like a fairly unpleasant experience. They do say that what makes a good hunter is an empty stomach. You know, maybe there's some kind of link there, I don't know.
But as the hunters go to recover, one thing is for sure. It appears that tomorrow I shall finally see with my own eyes whether this tribe can really handle the fish that's claimed to burn human flesh. The hunters rise early and, focused on their task, leave me struggling to keep up. Overnight rain has turned dust into mud, and I worry whether the water has risen, making it impossible to find an eel, let alone catch one.
We're going to the other side of the river. Not straight across, apparently we're going a little way upstream. What a little way is, I don't know exactly. I suspect a little way could even be an hour. Such concepts start to lose meaning here.
We make our way a little upriver before starting our trek into the jungle. I'm no stranger to dense tropical forest, but Ivan seems to slip through the undergrowth without effort.
We're heading off the path now.
We reach a pool where the hunters employ their first eel-catching technique.
They think that it's a wounded animal or something, apparently, this splashing sound. It's something that just gets their curiosity.
They begin to take up their positions.
When the water is just confined to small puddles, that's when they tend to just grab them with their hands.
The hunt moves into its next phase.
A pregnant woman doing the splashing in the water. This is more reliable in terms of calling the electric eels.
It seems improbable. But suddenly, all hell breaks loose. I'm hundreds of miles up the Amazon
They've got one.
on the hunt for the electric eel with the Matisse tribe. It's chaos as the hunters try to bring the fish into shallow water.
Right, I'm now in the water.
I struggle to get close. The eel writhes to get free.
It's here.
Finally, Bushy, the man who brought me here,
I can see it, you can see it trembling,
holds a live electric eel in his bare hands.
He's just holding that, he's holding it.
I've seen what these fish are capable of.
I'm not too comfortable being this close. He says it is shocking. This is the fish that is responsible for killing people. And according to others, actually burning their skin. But looking at Bushy now, no sign of any burns. He's been holding this now for several minutes.
I'm left with two possible conclusions. Either the Matisse have special powers,
Because they have this understanding that I don't completely follow, scientists don't completely follow.
or something else is responsible for the bizarre deaths. But this time, the Amazon isn't prepared to give up all her secrets just yet. And as long as there's mystery out here, I'll keep coming back. Want to catch a river monster of your own? I'll show you how at animalplanet.com/rivermonsters.